This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
11:34 in the morning on this Monday in Israel. It is a historic day, and you are watching history unfold. This is the Knesset in Jerusalem, the Israeli parliament building. President Trump has been invited to speak to the Knesset. He has been obviously very involved in the peace negotiations that have resulted in what you see on the banner at the bottom of your screen there. All 20 living hostages now confirmed to have been released by Hamas. Israel is releasing nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners in return, and there are the bodies of 28 hostages who died while in horrific conditions in Hamas captivity. Those bodies are going to be returned in the coming days, perhaps weeks, because it is not known where all of them are.
And welcome to Kentucky's Voice, the show where family, faith, and freedom still do matter. I'm your host today, Bob Scott, and I've got to tell you, it's a very, very historic day. In fact, arguably one of the most historic days in the history of the world, as to what is now happening in Israel. Of course, President Trump was over there to welcome back the hostages. We'll share a clip of that in our next segment. But we would like to get your thoughts with regard to what's going on right now. And with that, I want to invite you to text us at 502-571-0970. Again, our text line number is 502-571-0970. Please text us any thoughts, comments that you'd like to make, and we will absolutely share them on the program. Again, I am excited about what's happening in our world today. And as I mentioned, President Trump is in Israel and should be on his way, and probably has already arrived by this time in Egypt, continuing his peacekeeping mission. It's funny because before he became president, the left was really saying he's going to get us into war, even though there was absolutely no proof of that. In his first term that he served, he did everything to avoid war. But he is now continuing this very strategic, well thought out process of bringing hope to the world in a place that I could tell you, I don't know if I would ever have predicted that we'd be seeing something like this happen as to what is happening in Israel. And today we do have a fantastic program lined up. I've got my good friend, he's State Representative Ryan Dodson from District 73, is joining us. He has been serving the people of Kentucky with conviction in Frankfort, and now he's running for the 6th congressional seat that had been held by Andy Barr, still is technically, but Ryan is running for that position. That will be coming up, at least the primary for that will be coming up next May. And again, I'm very excited about it because one thing I can tell you about Ryan is he is a true plain talker, a man of conviction that has made a huge impact in Frankfort in the very short time that he's been there. In fact, I'm going to bring him on. We're going to take a short break here in a second, but we are going to talk about his background, what he's accomplished in the legislature, what he hopes to do in Washington. God help him as he goes in that direction, and I know the Lord will, and how his campaign's going. It's a tough thing to run for any office, but let alone when you're running for a strategic federal office like this. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to a break here. And again, you're listening to Kentucky's Voice. Feel free to join us at 502-571-0970. Please text us. We're so pleased to have you today. We'll be right back with State Representative Ryan Dodson after we take this break.
Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Hostages are back. The hostages are back. It is a good feeling. Isn't that nice to say? You know, I just said the hostage. First time I said the hostages are back. It feels so good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him, he's going to go to war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, my personality actually is all about stopping wars, and it seems to work. It seems to work.
Yeah, and that, of course, was President Trump at the start of his addressing the Israeli Knesset, which is their governing body in Israel. And as we mentioned, we do start today with some unbelievably great news, the release of the Israeli hostages from Hamas captivity. They've been held captive for 2 years. And you know what? It is an absolutely powerful reminder that prayer does work, and that peace, even in the darkest corners of the world, is always worth striving for. And speaking of peace efforts, President Trump continues to work on that. As I mentioned in the last segment, he's now off. I mean, I think he gave about an hour and a half speech. That's one thing he's well noted for, is pontificating off the cuff, and very, very good at it. Sometimes, in my humble opinion, he goes a little too long. But he's done incredible things. And as I mentioned at the start of our program, my special guest today is State Representative Ryan Dodson, who has served the 73rd District of our state over in the Winchester area, and part of Fayette County is who he represents, and has done a phenomenal job, in that. But Ryan, like I say, is a friend. He's a pastor as well as a businessman. This guy has worn many hats. And in the interest of full disclosure, I have endorsed him for this position, and I can tell you, it's a rare thing for me to come out and say that. But I feel this race is that important. There's some good people that are on the ticket running against him, but in my humble opinion, I think Ryan, for a time such as this, is the best person for that job. And again, I just feel that you all need to know that as well. Those of you who know me, I'm all about full disclosure and being upfront and honest, and that's another reason why I like Ryan Dodson. But anyway, Ryan, welcome to Kentucky's Voice. You've been on here before, my friend, and I'm excited about this time in history and what's happening in our world. And what are your thoughts about it?
Well, first of all, Bob, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your endorsement. We've been friends over the last several years, and you've walked through the fire with me. You've witnessed the fights and the battles I've taken on in Frankfort, and you've been there to cheer me on and encourage me when times have got tough. And because God knows that, especially when we were fighting for saving women's sports, things like that, that was a pretty intense time with all that. A lot of people don't understand all the backstory to those things, but got a lot of backlash, a lot of pushback from around the nation. And you saw some of that, and you was always there standing to encourage me. And now you're standing with me in this race and publicly endorsing me. I want to thank you for that. But getting back to what our great president has done to, over the last few days, bringing peace to the Middle East, that is exactly what we elected him to do. And, it's awful ironic here. The left has screamed how big of a Hitler Trump is, and he's the one saving Israel, So an oxymoron there, if you will. But
yes, how ironic is that?
Yeah, exactly. So it just shows you how far the left has gone with their ideology and just the craziness that they try to perpetuate on the American public. And you can't blame probably the left for trying to do it, but what I do blame is the people believe in it. They're sitting there believing whatever propaganda is being pushed on them when you can clearly see that he is a president of peace.
Yeah, and he, as the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
He said he was going to do exactly what he's doing, everything,
right
down the line. And I know you'd mentioned some of the battles that I was privileged and honored, to stay or walk with you, and that you're making huge things, battles, fighting for our state. Again, people don't understand the sausage making process that happens behind the scenes, to even bring legislation. First of all, to get it to where you can actually have a vote on it is an incredible process. But then once you get it forward, then it not only has to pass one side of the legislative body, but then it has to go and pass the other, and there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. And I know that you did that, brother. I mean, you did that. You said you were going to do it, that you were going to stand up for women's rights. And that's exactly what you did. I believe it ended up being Senate Bill 150. It came across that way, but you were the guy working for it initially, and certainly running it on the House side. And without your brave participation and being at the forefront of it, that would have never passed.
Yeah, the thing is that the bill that I actually authored the entire bill. So Senator Robbie Mills and myself worked on that, and we came to an agreement that he would run it from the Senate side. Then once it came to the House, we made my bill the committee sub, which the body of that bill, and now which is law, is the bill that I authored. And it went further than the original bill. And so we all came to that agreement early on just to speed up the process. And we got that across the finish line, and it was a great day in Kentucky. I think we were the 13th state in the nation that got that signed into law. So, but our daughters, our granddaughters, they deserve every opportunity to play collegiate sports, for a sports title, to have an opportunity to get a scholarship, where these biological males were taking up these spots and they were competing against them. A lot of females wasn't getting those opportunities. And so that had to be changed. And so we took a bold step, and we did it here in the state of Kentucky. And I'm glad to be a leader in that front. Yes,
and again, in my opinion, my humble opinion, you were the main voice that got that. And again, of course, I don't want to.
Well, I did take the heat. I took the heat from around the nation.
We're going to talk about that in another segment. That as we saw with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and that was taking it to the ultimate level. But this was a man who always acknowledged Jesus Christ everywhere that he went. He was very upfront and about that. And I know you, as I mentioned earlier, you're a pastor yourself, but he wasn't afraid to sit down and have discussions, with those who disagreed with him. In fact, when he would do his rallies, he would say, those who are against me or have against something that I'm going to be talking about, he said, I want you to come to the front of the line. And you're kind of the same way. You're not afraid to take it head on and address it. And again, for a time such as this, I think it's very important that we have leaders like you that aren't afraid to say and do the difficult things, as difficult or hard as it is, and make your opinions known and bring that clarity, to the discussion. And again, I know that the Trump administration is addressing this, and I will play a clip later in the show that shows this, because we've seen groups like Antifa that is being backed by liberals such as George Soros and their organizations, out literally attacking and beating up people that are just trying to report and cover the news.
Most definitely. I mean, we're at a crossroads in America. And so the thing is, and that we have to find leadership. The country is screaming for strong leadership. And when you have mayors and governors of states and cities saying they don't want their cities to be changed by having the National Guard coming in and helping clean that up, that shows you how bad that has got as far as leadership. Strong leadership would say, hey, help me clean my city up. I can't do it by myself. And so this country is screaming for leadership. People are screaming for leadership. They want safe cities. They want to be able to travel without having to look over their shoulder. So I believe what's taking place today and what Trump is doing is exactly what needs to be done.
Ryan, that's a powerful perspective. And we're going to have to take a quick break. And when we do come back, we'll get to know a little bit more about who Ryan Dodson is, his background, and what brought him into public service. Stay with us. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. We'll see you here after this quick break.
Are you ready to stand for truth?
That's good, Brian.
Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. My special guest today is State Representative Ryan Dodson from Kentucky's 73rd District, a man many Kentuckians have come to know from his faith, his leadership, and his service. But before politics, Ryan has had quite the journey with regard to his life. And Ryan, tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what experiences have shaped your values.
Thank you, Bob, for this opportunity. Yeah, I am the son of a sixth-generation coal miner from eastern Kentucky, a little town called Freeburn, which is right on the West Virginia border. It's as far east in Kentucky as you can go. The only thing that separates us is the Tug River. And grew up in this little mining town, and just a wonderful place to grow up. And to me, that was the center of the universe. That was all we ever knew. And the highlight of our summer was to go to Camden Park or possibly to Kings Island.
Been there?
So, that thinking of Camden Park now, it's just, but anyway, we didn't have a lot growing up. My dad was a hard worker. My mom was a stay-at-home mother, and she took great care of us. But just those humble beginnings of growing up, and then at the age of 17, fell in love with a lady that would become my wife, and I married her at 17, a week out of high school. Tressa and I have been married on 35 years now, and I was started bagging.
And you outkicked your coverage too.
I did as well as
say that too, just like I did as well.
But yeah, we got married. I was 17. She was 19. She was a little older than me.
Oh, okay.
She knew a good thing when she saw it. So
yeah. But
anyhow, we got married. Been married for 35 years, and I started out bagging groceries, and I was a butcher part time, and so I was making about $75 a week. My grandfather had an old pool room. We turned into a little 2-room shanty, and we stayed there. Which I graduated third out of my class in high school. So I had a really high score, and I had an opportunity to take a full ride to Alice Lloyd College and to even go to Moorhead. But I needed to make money as a young husband. And so the military was a great option for me. So I went into the Army, and I scored high enough on my ASVAB test there to get into x-ray school. So I went to x-ray school while I was in the Army. And so from there, I got my training and then went to Germany for a period of time. And then after I got out of the military, I came down to Central Kentucky and got a job at the University of Kentucky. So I settled in Winchester. It was close enough to get to work, but yet far enough away from the city. And so it was a compromise, a great compromise for us. And this is where we've planted roots. It's where we've raised our children. And, we've built a life here. We've built businesses here. And it's just built a ministry here. Started in a little storefront building with 12 people. And we grew that first year to 120 people. The second year, we grew to over 250 people. And, God has really blessed us. And so to take
and
the
you've
journey.
done also two worldwide revivals as well, where you've drawn hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
In doing that.
Yeah, that's another leg of our ministry. Is I do a lot of mission work. As a matter of fact, I've got a big mission coming up, and this was already on the books before I even decided to run for U.S. Congress. So, but yeah, that's something we've been doing for several years, and our campaigns in Africa, sometimes 80, 100, 120,000 people will come to our crusade.
And I've seen the video proof of that. So if anybody's saying, "Oh, come on," I've seen the videos. I've got the receipts, so to speak.
Yeah, I have them too if anybody ever needs them. But we've worked hard to build that ministry and to work with that ministry. We got boots on the ground over there that really help us get those things launched. And we've been effective on the mission field. So that is a big part of my heart is ministry and to make an impact, to change people's lives for the better. And get into politics is just an extension of that because, the church itself, Bob, is a place of healing. It's a place of restoration. It's a place of people learning the word of God, establishing a relationship. And as a pastor, you help facilitate that. You help people come out of drug addiction, broken marriages, broken lives, and you help bring wholeness to people. So, and as a pastor, you see an undercurrent of society that a lot of people never see. So the thing is, you work in that ministry and you help rebuild lives or put lives back together by the grace of God. But then there's another step that has to be taken by Christians, and that is getting involved in the culture war that's taking place because we're good at church. But the church has to extend beyond the walls. And we have to take up the fight to push back against the darkness, push back against the woke ideology. And that's what got me involved politically, is that I felt I needed to take a stand. Not enough was being done, especially from Christians and especially from Christian leadership, that we haven't taken the sword and fought the good fight as God has commanded us to do. And so that's why I got involved politically. So when I went to Frankfort,
Ron, let me interrupt you just for a second. There's a lot. It frustrates me, but there's a lot of Christians and Christian pastors that say, like to fall back to the old line of separation of church and state, and Christians should not get involved in politics. What are your thoughts about that, and how do you respond to somebody like that?
Well, our country was founded on godly Christian leadership. The Black Coat Regiment were, I don't know if many of your viewers have heard of that, but these were ministers of the gospel who helped shape America.
Yes.
And that's what has made America what it is God-fearing, Christian believing people who stood for what was right. And so I believe that we have been silent. The church had been silent too long. Church leadership has been silent too long. And that's why we've had prayer taken out of schools. That's why we see now we got furries in schools, people identifying as cats and dogs, and people, it's just
crazy.
Yeah. And we have a lot of our education system that's indoctrinating or grooming our children to give them a different identity than what God has given them. So we have to take a stand against this craziness. If we don't, we're going to lose our generations to come. And so, I'm going to be a voice and not an echo. And I've been that in Frankfort, and I want to take that fight from Frankfort to D.C. That's my whole goal. I'm not a silver-tongued politician. As a matter of fact, I'm soup, beans, and cornbread. What you see is what you get, know, and I make no apologies for that, but I am a fighter, and I'll stand for God. I'll stand for what's right. I'll protect our children in the womb, and I'll protect them in the school. I'll fight for our young girls. I'll protect our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights. And I'm just sick and tired of people who call themselves Christian who do very little. The thing is, we talk about praying. Well, we'll pray about it. Well, we'll just take it to God in prayer. And prayer has its place. But God tells us we've got to take action. Jesus said to speak to that mountain, and that mountain be removed. He didn't say pray about the mountain, just pray that it'll be taken. No, he said speak. You got power with your words. The power of life and death is in the tongue. And if we don't use our words and push back, we're going to lose our country. We're going to lose our young generation. And, that's what I feel called to do. To me, this is an extension of my ministry.
Yes. Was there a specific moment that you could think of, or calling that made you say, enough's enough, it's time to step up and serve? And we have a little over about 2 minutes left in this segment. Well,
the moment for me came, I think I was invigorated to see Trump. When Trump first got elected, there's a lot of unknowns, right? And so you hear the propaganda on the left, and I knew he was a strong man in business. I knew he'd be great for the economy, but what kind of president could he truly be? And I saw that in him. I saw, man, he really, truly cares. I seen that genuine appeal that he had to make a difference. This man could be sipping a pina colada on a yacht somewhere for the rest of his life. But this man cares enough to get engaged in what matters in America. And I truly believe that genuine care, it's spilled over, and it's contagious. And so I wanted to be able to take that fight as well. And I'm proud of President Trump, and I hope to be able to go up to Washington, D.C. and serve with him. Yeah, and obviously I do too, my friend. And I will say President Trump doesn't drink alcohol, but Ryan's obviously trying to illustrate the point. That there's virgin pina coladas.
Yeah, maybe on a golf course. Playing golf perpetually for the rest of his life. That's his passion, and he could easily be doing that, but he's not. Ryan, you have an inspiring story of service and conviction. After the break, we'll talk about, folks, what Ryan Dodson has actually accomplished in Frankfort. We talked about a little bit so far, and how that record sets the stage for what he wants to do next. Stick around. You're listening to Your Voice, Kentucky's Voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
The President, you stand before the people of Israel not as another American president, but as a giant of Jewish history, one for whom we must look back 2.5 millennia into the mists of time to find a parallel, Cyrus the Great. You, President Donald J. Trump, are a colossus who will be enshrined in the pantheon of history. Thousands of years from now, Mr. President, the Jewish people will remember you. We are a nation that remembers. Far from being a local struggle, what we are witnessing is a global struggle, a global battle between the forces of extremism, radicalism, and fundamentalism, and those of freedom, liberty, and democracy. What the world needs now is not appeasers who feed the crocodile in the hope that they will be eaten last, like the kind we have seen recently at the UN General Assembly. And by the way, President Trump, your team has checked the teleprompters. It is working beautifully. What the world needs now are more leaders who are brave, resolute, strong, and bold. The world needs more Trumps.
And welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. Of course, that was an Israeli Knesset member thanking and praising Donald Trump for what he's done in this historic day, historic moment in the Middle East. And obviously prayers and thoughts are going out to the people of that part of the world, and of course to our president and really all the leaders that are striving for peace. We know how important that is. And he said something that I think is very critical, that needs to really be listened to and focused on. It's something that Trump has talked about often. But again, we were talking earlier, he puts his actions where his mouth is, and that's peace through strength, and especially in that part of the world, that's really the only thing that they really understand, is actions. And it was the actions that President Trump took leading up to this historic agreement. Some tough actions. I'm talking about, the bombing, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, it played into it. I'm talking about the bombing that take out the nuclear facilities in Iran. He's taken out several, narco drug traffickers on our southern seashores. Going back, to Iran, he took out one of their main constructor of terrorism, Soleimani, several years ago in his first term. So again, actions speak louder than words, and he is absolutely sending a message that I believe has been well listened to, and it puts him in a position that he is someone that the world cannot trifle with, and he's going to do what needs to be done. And again, we're very blessed to have on this program today another man that I think kind of falls in that same framework. And of course, I'm talking about State Representative Ryan Dodson, who's running for the Congressional 6th District seat that's been occupied by Andy Barr. Of course, he's running for U.S. Senate. And it's just exciting, Ryan, what we see happening right now. And I know you describe yourself as being a very strong Trump supporter, which you have been from really day one. What are some of the key things that you see happening right now in the Middle East, and how this is going to play out, moving forward?
Well, foreign policy is a misnomer. You try to attain and try to structure things that sometimes go awry. I mean, things could be great today, but tomorrow things could look totally different. So it's a perpetual working. It's something that's constantly, just because they sign an agreement or come to agreement today doesn't mean that's going to last forever. So there always has to be open lines of communication. There has to be constantly talking on both sides, people coming to the table and sharing their griefs, their grievances, and being able to be open and communicate. And I think that's probably the biggest detractor or the biggest roadblock, is there has not been a lot of open communication. And that's the good thing about Trump. He's about communicating, whether you like it or not, or whether he wants to hear it or not. He wants people to communicate. And and I think that's going to play strong going forward, is that type of leadership. The world is screaming for it. It's screaming for people to stand up and be bold and to be brave and not be one-sided. Even among us who are of a conservative mindset, sometimes we can be too one-sided and not listen to the other side. So even though I may not agree, we still have to allow them to communicate.
Yes.
And I think that those barriers come down, and people will put their guards down to some degree if they feel like they're being heard.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Again, we were talking earlier about Charlie Kirk, and one of the things that he was very strong about, and really how he made his name and built his legacy that's now carrying over to really sparking a worldwide revival, as a result of it. The world's longing, I believe, for truth. And people that aren't afraid to go and say the tough things that they may not want to hear, but be able to do it in a graceful manner, and in an engaging manner. And I know you've done that, in Frankfort. You've worked with some on the opposite, and sometimes some people within your own party that you may not agree with 100%. And I know that we touched a little bit upon Senate Bill 150 in another segment, but I think it's important that folks know the other things, that you've been able to do during your time in Frankfort, and what issues are basically most important to you.
Well, I helped to lead the charge in the House when it came to not only save women's sports, but also stopping gender reassignments on minors. Also, keeping boys.
And to me, that's a common sense thing.
I know. Who would ever thought we would need that?
Kidding me? I mean, honestly, why that's even thought of, and more importantly, being allowed to happen in our country, that any minor that they can go and do a life-altering life, and again, the key word is minor,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're an adult and you want to go and move forward and do something like that, you know what, you're an adult.
Exactly.
But to do that to children, in my opinion, it's criminal. And
it is.
And I know that you led the fight on that too.
Yeah, and keeping boys out of girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. Just common sense things that a lot of people just thought, well, we'll just let the school systems deal with it, let them put the regulations in place. But we had to take action at a state level, and to really, because we're seeing so much of, and we're privy to things in the General Assembly that a lot of people don't get to hear or see. I mean, people come to us with all kinds of problems and issues, and we have to kind of sit down and try to cipher through these things. But we had one situation where a child was coming to school, and the teacher allowed this child, who was a boy, to dress as a girl at school. So she helped facilitate, and she'd bring him clothes to dress as a girl at school, but go home dressed as a boy.
Unbelievable.
And so for months, the child was coming to school, dressing at school, and then going back home as a boy, coming to school dressing. Then the teacher helped him.
And that was happening here in Kentucky.
It was happening here in Kentucky. And so what we were seeing, and that it was just really heart-wrenching, because the young boy tried to commit suicide. And unbeknownst to the parent that any of this was going on, they had no clue that this child was coming back home as a boy, but going to school dressing and identifying as a girl. And this teacher was solely at fault, and the parents were left in the dark. And that type of stuff has to stop. Yes. I mean, teach our kids math, reading,
yes.
All these things, leave their identity alone. They're perpetuating mental illness is what's taking place. And we have to put safety rails, guardrails in place in the legislature to make sure that we help navigate these young people, these young minds through this. And so, it's a battle. It's a battle.
And that's just, to me, again, common sense,
right?
And how utterly shameful it was for that teacher to be pushing their ideology, on a young person, and putting that young person really at risk to, like you say, that particular young child almost committed suicide or tried to commit suicide as a result of it. How do you think your work in Frankfort has prepared you for what you'll face in Washington, because it will be taken up another level?
Well, I think, going to Frankfort, I'll be going into my 6th session. I think the learning curve that it took me a couple years to get acclimated, because my very first session as a junior legislator, I tried to impeach our governor, Andy Beshear, and the way he done us during the lockdowns, the way he treated churchgoers, the way he treated churches. And so I went in with 8 articles of impeachment. So I was ready to fight from the get-go. But I went in and I learned the procedural things. I learned the terminology. I learned what it was to take up a true legislative fight in Frankfort. And I've been able to be successful at that. And it's all about building connections, networking. It's about building relationships. And I'll be able to take those skills that I have garnered there and really to take them to Washington, D.C. And I've already got some great contacts, great friends within Congress. So I think it will just over time, it will just become more of what I've already done.
Yeah, and you already have won some awards, and I know, what was that, just real quick, we have less than a minute, the award that you were presented recently in Washington.
From the Legislative Analysis Institute, they awarded me out of 138 legislators here in Kentucky because of the work that I've done, the body of work, and also my voting record. They chose me. They went back 4 years and reviewed all that body of work, the fights that I put up, and they gave me that award, the Legislative Analysis Award in Washington, D.C. I was honored with other congressmen, other congresswomen, and it was a great event. I got to be there, took pictures with a bunch of people that I admire, like Chip Roy and Jeff Jordan and all these guys who make these big stands on a national level.
Solid record, Brian. Strong principles. That's what we need more of. You're listening to Kentucky's Voice. We'll be right back after this break.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
The first case that we took on was the case of Andy Ngo, the journalist in Portland, Oregon, and he was exposing the Antifa violence happening in that city. Andy was attacked on 2 different instances by gangs of these Antifa thugs for doing journalism. They recognized him, they violently attacked him, and when I saw him assaulted, I reached out to him, so we're going to go after them and sue them for attacking you. But we wanted to send the message that it wasn't going to be free to just attack journalists in the United States. Poor Andy was, beaten twice and suffered significantly from that. Each of them showed up in court after I sued them with their own lawyers paid for by Soros-funded, Tides Foundation-funded nonprofits. And so there's a whole edifice of nonprofits on the left that pays for these violent thugs to do what they do with impunity.
And that was basically, she's an assistant deputy in the U.S. Department of Civil Rights, Department of Justice, that they have plans to move forward to sue Antifa and other liberal groups that are backing and supporting these far left groups that are deliberately trying to cause harm to not just conservatives, but really to our way of life. And that's the way I look at it. It's not just a conservative thing. It's trying to violate the United States Constitution and the things we as Americans stand for. You know. And again, my special guest today is Representative Ryan Dodson, now a candidate for the United States Congress, 6th District. What would you have to say when you see something like that? I know we had talked about that earlier in the show, and you've received some threats, in your tenure serving in office, and it's a problem, and this rhetoric has got to come to an end, and it's going to take strong actions to bring it to an end. We're all First Amendment people, all of us. But when those First Amendments, and for those of you listening on the radio, you couldn't see how badly beaten this guy was. This reporter, conservative reporter, and I mean, he was beat up pretty bad. And to a point that the Trump administration saw it, and they've decided that they're starting to be addressing these things head on, and hopefully, by the grace of God, they'll be able to bring this to an end. But what are your thoughts, Ryan?
Well, it's disparaging to watch that. It really is, to see how we don't respect human life and respect someone's right to report. And what goes a little further than that, because we're finding out through Doge that a lot of these George Soros type things are backed by American taxpayer dollars through these NGOs.
Yes, we were paying for it, basically.
Exactly. And
conservative or not, you're paying for to help fund and support these type of activities.
Yeah, these things, I mean, just the atrocities that have been played upon the American people by crooked politicians, by people who we trust, and in these bureaucratic positions. And so it's really sickening to see the overall schematics of not only someone being violated, but to know that our country has funded that through taxpayer dollars and funneled that type of money into George Soros's NGOs and maybe many others that we don't even know or privy to. So these things have to stop, Bob.
Yeah, if elected, what are going to be your top priorities, and what type of representative will you be, when you get to Congress?
Well, the first thing I really want to do is I want to focus on what's important to the 6th District, because the good people of the 6th District is going to elect me to represent their interests. Now, they know what I believe in. They know what I stand for. I've been very on point with my positioning when it comes to pro-life, when it comes to the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, when it comes to all these things that are important to voters. So when I represent them, they know this up front. So my thing is going to Washington, D.C. and being a voice for my district and trying to secure funding to help build infrastructure, to help bring jobs, good paying jobs back to the center of Kentucky, right here where really within a day's drive, we're in touch with 75% of America. And so Kentucky is really the heart of America, and Central Kentucky is the heart of Kentucky. So we're in a very genuine position here to really experience great growth. So I really want to focus on our agriculture, helping our farmers with these subsidies, trying to get a more even world global market into place. I want to help bring those industries back here, like I said, and really push back on the woke agenda in Washington, D.C. I mean, really, to push back against the Chuck Schumers, the Ilhan Omars, be able to stand against the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOCs, and really, take that fight to them. Not let them do all the speaking, not let them suck up all the air in the room, but let them hear voices of reason. And I don't want to go up there and just be a button pusher. I don't want to go up there and just sit in the office and say, you know what, and tell my grandkids, I was a congressman. No, I want to go up there and have done something with the position that I've been given. So given that opportunity, that's what I want to do, Bob. I want to go to D.C. and really put up a good fight for the people of Central Kentucky.
Yeah, I want to share something that just came in from our text line, and this is addressed to you, Ryan. May your day be like a vibrant symphony of victory, harmoniously uniting effort and success. So
right,
that's from one of our viewers. Very nice message, and thank you for texting us that. If you still have time, if you'd like to text a message to us, we're running out of time. There's only about 6 minutes left in the show today. Again, you can do so by texting us at 502-571-0970. Again, 502-571-0970. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Your thoughts are why we're here.
Right.
And very important to us. Ryan, Washington is a mess. President Trump obviously is working very hard to clean up that mess. We all know that. How do you plan to bring Kentucky values to a place that seems to have basically lost its moral compass?
Well, Washington, D.C. had veered off course under the leadership of Joe Biden. And thank God, I'd hate to imagine where we would be today if Kamala Harris would have won that election for president. Yes. Yeah, I mean, we would definitely be in a very different America today, I do believe. And so thank God that Trump did win. And I think he's going to make a huge difference. And he needs allies in Washington, D.C. He needs people that's going to support his agenda, that has his vision. And I'll stand for it. Now, I will also say this, as much of an ally as I will be for Donald Trump, it's very important to me that it doesn't go against anything that is biblical, that doesn't go against anything that is right in the sight of God. That will always be the lens that I filter my actions and my voting through, first and foremost. Yeah. I'm not going to follow blindly anybody, but if they follow after the principles of God and I see that they're clearly doing what I feel is right in the sight of God, then I'll stand with them. And so, but I will never follow any man or woman blindly.
Yeah, so, that's absolutely good to hear. And how can a freshman congressman, because whoever gets elected is going to be a freshman, there, and how can you make an impact right away, especially in today's political climate.
Well, you look at somebody who set a great precedent as a junior legislator who worked his way up in the ranks pretty quick, and that was Jamie Comer. I mean, he did that rather quick. I mean, he's now the chair of the Oversight Committee, and he has a great future here in Kentucky. So, I mean, it's about making connections. It's about people being able to trust you. And when people trust you, then they'll see you as a politician. I think you can accelerate within the ranks. And so, you know, those things I will take with me is being able to work well with others, being able to share my experiences. And I think having that state legislator background, because not everybody that's in Congress has the background from being from a state legislator. Having that General Assembly here at the state level. Yeah. So some of them are just businessmen who's won their election. Some are just other politicians that have won that election, but they don't have that state legislator background.
That's an advantage that you do have because not only are you a very successful pastor that has done worldwide missions, but you've been a very successful businessman, you know, as well, and you've served successfully within our state legislature. So, you know, again, those are three areas I think they're going to be critical. And you bring a really unique perspective to Congress and the people of our state. You know, in fact, how do faith and conservative principles guide your approach to national leadership?
Well, it's like I said, it's not what I do, it's who I am. It's the fabric of my being, Bob, is leadership. I've been called to serve as a pastor, and I've been a community leader for many years. Been on many boards, been on many from the industrial planning board to, a ministerial association working, trying to feed and clothe. We have clothing banks, food banks, really trying to enhance those people who have had to struggle, not only spiritually, but physically as well, financially, and just trying to make a difference. You know, I have a beautiful life outside of politics. I really do. I could live my life and be happy. I've got 4 beautiful grandchildren, 2 wonderful daughters. They're married to great men. I've got a wonderful mom and dad who's still living. I mean, I could go on vacation, enjoy my life, do my business, but I feel called to this. This is something I feel like God has mandated for my life. And I don't care how much success you have, if you don't fulfill the call of God on your life, then you're unsatisfied. You're not fulfilled on the inside. And so pleasing God at the end of the day and standing before him on the day of judgment, hearing him say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." You know, that is what I long to hear.
Yes. And you know, Ryan, we have just a little over a minute to go. I want to make certain, because you don't have any major big special interest groups behind you per se, you know, political action committees. And I know fundraising is the lifeblood of any campaign. You're in that mode right now. With a minute to go, please share with our listeners and viewers what they can do if they want to back you and support you.
Sure. Yeah, they can go on my website, Dodson4ky.com, Dodson for Kentucky, Dodson4ky.com. They can go on there, check me out on my website. There's also a way to donate on that website, but also if they would like to send a check, there is a way to do that as well. That's on the website. So if they want to engage, they want to learn more about me, then we have an email there. People can plug in through the website. So it's a opportunity, and I welcome anyone. This seat is not for sale. There's certain PAC monies I will not take because I'm not going to sell the seat to the highest bidder. I want to take this seat and fill it with the special interest of the constituents of the 6th Congressional District.
Representative Ryan Dodson, it's been an honor to have you on here today. That's going to wrap it up for another edition of Kentucky's Voice. Thank you all for listening and joining us today. God bless.
Thank you, Bob.